Mr. Nella is catch your breath, she was running a little late. I want to make a statement as a lifelong resident and also as a business person who owns a apartment complex within a half a mile of the project. You know, we know there's going to be a lot of interruptions. We feel that, as many have said before, about the loss of parking. It will be yet another barrier to divide our community. People spoke about the concern about displacement and gentrification, like we went through in the 70s with urban renewal. So this is the third time that government action has come through this community. The freeway, urban renewal, and now this project. And so we as seniors, as pioneers and as lifelong residents, we don't want to leave a legacy for these babies that we as responsible adults didn't take a stand. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a stand and not only fight for ourselves, fight for those that have gone before us, and fight for those that are coming after us. And so it's important for everyone to understand that everybody's not opposed to light rail, but we're opposed to the way it's been planned and the implementation of it. Remember early on when they talked about the location, we weren't at the table. Someone else made that decision for us. Between Pierce, Butler, I-94, we weren't at that table. These other folks made these decisions for us. And then they came to us and wanted our input. This was also a project that none of us really requested. And so what we're saying, that if you want to do this, well, go ahead and do it. But we want you to do it as a true partnership based on mutual trust and respect, where we get what we want out of the project, and the city and the feds and the state and everybody else get what they want. But right now, we're not even under the table getting any crumbs. We're not even close to the table. And this is totally unacceptable. It's immoral and it's unjust. And we as a community would not stand for it. This young lady I'm going to introduce next has really done a yeoman's job in looking out and working on behalf of this community. Veronica has been there every step of the way. You know, I know one of the things that the Met Council talks about a lot, and others, is how much community input. All the community meetings. Yeah, they did have a lot of meetings. And there was a lot of community input. But the input stopped right there at the table. Nobody took any of that in consideration. And in spite of that, in spite of the many times that she ran up against a brick wall, you know, Veronica stayed out there. And she has been our point person, and we as a community have really been blessed to have her in our midst and to represent our interests. At this time, Ms. Veronica Burke. Let her catch your breath. You want to say something right now?
Yeah.
Yes,
okay. Yeah. Before I go on, I'll have Mr. Nella's part.
My name is Nella Ellen. I own my business at 1183 University. I'm concerned about parking. My customer, I'm the only black club in St. Paul, and my customers come from all over. And if I lose my parking, that would kill my business. I've been in the business now for 18 years, and I'm worried about losing my business. Thank you.
Now at this time, our leader, our teacher, and our guide, Mr. Rondo.
Good afternoon. Thank you to all the reporters and community members that have come out today, especially the day after the celebration of Martin Luther King's holiday. I think this is a good time for us to really reflect on, the man, his message, and his mission. And I think for so long, we have essentially forgotten the essence of what he was calling on us all to do, and that is to act. And it's incumbent upon us, as Nick Khalik said, certainly for this community to act. At the time when the freeway came, there could have been a lot more action. But here we are, fast forward, 40, 50 years later, and we have some tools at our disposal thanks to such men as Martin Luther King and a lot of civil rights legislation, environmental justice legislation that was all spawned from that movement. But it is essential for us as citizens and activists to seize these various tools and use them for the sake of justice. And that's why we are here today. Again, members of this historic Rondo community have filed a lawsuit challenging the legality of the planning of the Central Corridor Light Rail project. The lawsuit filed this morning in federal court alleges the government planning agencies have neglected to adequately consider both the impacts of the light rail on area businesses and residents. The lawsuit also alleges that the responsible agencies have failed to adequately consider mitigating the impacts of the project. By granting the record of decision to the Central Corridor Light Rail project, the Federal Transit Administration has approved this final environmental impact statement. And that fails to fully account for the project's direct, indirect, and certainly in the case of our history, its cumulative impacts. Members of the Rondo community have long understood the negative consequences of major infrastructure projects and as such have been forced to take legal measures to ensure this time the protection of this community. As planned, the light rail projects, as others have said, will result in business interruption, commercial and residential parking loss, displacement, gentrification, increased rents, property taxes, as well as the further isolation of this community sandwiched in between two government-sponsored projects, 94 and the light rail. At its height, Rondo united the economic, social, and political aspirations of its residents, and this era was all but destroyed during the 50s and 60s by the construction of the freeway. Soon afterwards, they were displaced again by urban renewal policies in the 70s. Now today, they yet again face involuntary displacement, which could be the intention of the light rail project. Be that the I-94 investment misdeed left an indelible scar on the well-being of our community, it would be a shame upon the federal and local bodies of government to be inconsiderate implementers of yet another large-scale transportation project in this area. Unless the project impacts are properly addressed and mitigated, the plaintiffs in this lawsuit will oppose this project. The plaintiffs here support an alternative revitalizing vision, which we refer to as a Rondo Renaissance. A culturally based revival that allows for the preservation of this community, the enhancement of this community, the restoration of this community, and above all, the healing of this community. Community members, above all, value revitalization without displacement, lifting people out of poverty and not out of the neighborhood.